Hello, and welcome back to this series all about cost. This is part 2, and if you haven't listened to yesterday's episode, I would really recommend doing that because this will all therefore make way more sense. We're talking about the cost, not just in terms of money, although often on a Tuesday we do talk about money, but also the emotional cost, the mental, the physical, the capacity, the energy, the focus, the intention, the sacrifices potentially. And in today's video, I want to really build that beautiful relationship with the next money version of you. Now, as you will remember, maybe me saying yesterday, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial advisor, but for the last 25 years, I've been trying to figure out how to make money doing what I love and get paid, essentially. And I want to help you do the same. I've helped hundreds of people around the world through my courses, through my one-on-one sessions, and I know there will be a great way for you. I also should just add, we're not about being billionaires or millionaires here. If you want to do that, absolutely great. But everybody's version of success is very different. What we spend money on is very different. So it's important that this process is in alignment with who you are and what you want. And I think that there is no particular way to do this. What makes you feel good? That's the only key factor here. Number one, I want you to think about what is the cost of running your business and you. I am going to ask you to do that work of pulling out the statements, having a look and getting to know exactly what has been going on for the last 6 months. And if you are one of those fancy people with a printer, or old school, maybe should I say, print them off and grab your post-it notes maybe, or your highlighters. And I want you to go through them in detail. And maybe you do this already. Maybe this is part of your accounting process. But I also know that some of you never look, never think about it, never notice the patterns, never notice what is going on. And so I know this for sure. If you want to go somewhere else or the next version of yourself, you have to know where you are right now. The sat nav says it all. In order for them to track like it's a whole group of people understanding where you're going. But when you put your postcode of where you want to go into your sat nav, it wants to calculate where you are right now. And then it can work out how long it's going to take, the most perfect route, and what is happening for you. It's exactly the same with your money story. We can say all day long, I just want to make 6 figures, or this is going to be my first 7-figure year, or a 10K month, or whatever it might be. But until you really look and see what's going on and pull it apart and really explore it, that's when the interesting work's going to come. I often think about this when we all do this, or in our family, you get to the end of Christmas and New Year, and you sit back and you're like, yeah, I don't really think that I've overindulged this year. And then you look at your food bill, or you look at, I have been having 2 slices of Christmas cake every single day. And I don't think I've seen a vegetable for the last 3 or 4 days. And it's only when you truly look at what's going on, you can see what is happening. So I want to ask you, what are you spending money on? And are the costs that you have right now, are they the right costs? Are those investments getting you to where you want to be? For example, I was doing this a while ago. I found myself, and it's tricky because there's a supermarket quite near my kids' school. I was in that supermarket 5 times a week sometimes, wandering around, thinking about what to have for dinner. Not only was I losing time that I should have been working, or I wanted to be working, I knew that I was never going in for 2 or 3 things. Or you go in with the intention of 2 or 3 things, and then you come out with 9 or 10 things. And that increase every single weekday of time and money, it was really damaging. I know that sounds dramatic, but it was really reducing my output in terms of my business. And so when I went through and I was like, I am in this supermarket every single day, that's when I knew on a Sunday I had to make a commitment. Right, what am I buying this week? What's happening? Who's in? Who's out? How many meals am I cooking? What have we got in the fridge? I had to do that inventory, because once I could do that, then I could plan. And this is the way that we have to look at the costs of our business. Sometimes also we find ourselves doing things that feel fantastic and brilliant and great in the moment. They're not getting us where we want to go. So this is your opportunity right now to make some clear decisions. And I'm not saying that you have to live in this like lack, boring mentality, but just being mindful. And I had a chat with somebody I knew today, and they were like, oh, I've got to get the bus today because I'm saving money rather than going on the tube. And then I couldn't help myself. And I said, or you get to choose to go on the bus because you are going to choose to spend money on something else. And she kind of looked at me and was like, oh, yeah. And I think we have to do this in a way that we have this empowered relationship with money. And sometimes there is that moment where it's like, I feel like I'm scrimping and saving here, there, and everywhere. And I'm in this kind of grind mode of making sensible decisions. Like if you ever move house, the amount of money you have to shell out for all of the things is so huge. And yes, of course, you want the house, but everything costs money. We had to get somebody to look at some drains of a house that we didn't even own because we needed to make sure that these drains were not blocked. That felt really weird. I mean, in the end, we did come to own that house and we have clear drains and we're very grateful for that. But that thing of, okay, well, in order to move forward, we need to do the drain survey. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So what are you spending money on? Is it taking you closer? And to go back to the drain thing, it did take us closer because we had clear drains, we bought the house, and the rest is history. 3 years on, very happy. Anyway, number 2, I want you to think about your hourly rate. Now, if you've been in employment or if you did a job in your teenage years, maybe, and you had an hourly rate, maybe this was like a standardized, this is what we pay you per hour. Often this is in retail or bar work or anything like that. In order to shift out of that mentality into your full value, that is difficult. That is a challenge sometimes because everything in your brain wants to refer back to something familiar. So say you were working in a shop for, I can't even think what the rate was, like £5.50 an hour. I think that's what it was when I was working in a shop. If I suddenly go, can I really charge 100 times more than that for an hour's work? Whoa. Oh, how would I feel doing that? When you begin to make those leaps, that's when you begin to reveal the money gunk that is occurring underneath. That's when you will find what is blocking and stopping you and getting you in the way of making the moves going forward. So I want you to think about your chargeable hours. Your chargeable hours, as in the money that you bill that comes into your business, is so key when you are growing. What you don't want to be doing is just being in build mode the whole time. Like, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to build this and I'm going to tweak it. There has to be a point where, okay, say you were baking bread, for example. There's a moment where you can practice and do different experiments, do different recipes, and then like poke it and be like, oh no, that's still not right. I can't sell that. But there will become a moment where you go, yeah, I can sell that. That's absolutely edible. That ticks all of the boxes. It tastes really good, actually. Great. And then you begin to sell it so you can make more bread. And I think that so often people miss this tipping point. They get stuck into the building, the fun, the creative stuff, because also that means they don't have to be visible. Often they don't have to be vulnerable because they're not setting it live, and they get to do that thing. I want to encourage you to really begin to sell more and say, I am available. I can help you with this. Number 3, I want ease and flow to be the natural rhythm of your business. And I want you to think about the systems and the paths that money can come into your business. So one of the things is sometimes I've worked with clients and they will say, I just want to make more money, but nobody's buying anything. And sometimes that is there's too many decisions to make. People don't know what they want, so they don't buy anything. There was that jam experiment done where they say, if you put 30 jams on a shelf, people don't go, wow, there's so many jams. How exciting to choose from so many. They just go, oh, there's so many jams. I can't make a decision. Whereas if you put 3 jams down, they have a sense of, oh, okay, this looks like the jam for me. I'm going to buy that. Great. And off they go with their jam plan. So in terms of looking at the flow and the pathways of welcoming money, it's really important for you to be clear how you're going to do that. And sometimes those logistics of how you absolutely get paid, it's too complicated. And you might think, well, I'm doing it like this technological way. But my mum actually said this. She was trying to make a payment for something, and I happened to be at her house, and she was on her iPad, and she said, I don't know if I'm being stupid, but I can't work out how to get to the checkout. I can't work out how to pay. And then she sort of said, well, if they make it any more difficult, I'm not going to make the payment. And I just thought, I mean, this was a big company, but also I was like, oh, how many other people are in that rhythm of, I can't make the payment, I can't do the thing. I want you to clean up that system. Number 4, there are going to be easy ways to increase your profits if you allow yourself to explore some ideas. So I'm going to give you a few here to think about. I remember, over the last 15 years since I've been a coach, I've trialed and errored many things, many ways of being, many different price points, ways of selling. I've always been experimenting and tweaking. And fundamentally, there are certain things that work for me. And I, at the time, had an Ask Me Anything session. And I think at the time it was something like £150. And somebody bought one. And this client, I think I'd worked with previously, and she came to me and she was really going through quite a stretchy time. And she said to me, you know, these Ask Me Anything sessions, do you know what would be really great? And she's like, I don't even know if this is possible for you or for me, but I'm just seeing if it's a possibility. Do you know what would be really great is to do this for a year. Can I pay you every month an Ask Me Anything session? And I know that I've got that in. And I said, yes, that's fine. And so for me, beginning that next 12 months, knowing that I had that £150 coming into my business every single month, that felt really great. And so in terms of increasing my profits, to go back to the point, I didn't have to go out there and find 12 other customers in order to make that sale. It was just the same customer, but connected with the solution she wanted. She wanted that accountability. She wanted to come back time and time again. She wanted that continuity of the relationship that we were building. And we really were familiar with each other at that point. Another thing I can give you is the rhythms of people's lives. So I have a hot yoga studio around the corner from my house. It's about 3 minutes to get there. I love it. It's really, really great. And yet, when I knew I wanted to do hot yoga again, I procrastinated. And I was just like walking past the place. I kept seeing it because I'd be on my way to the shop. And I was just like going back and forward. And I was like, oh, I can't go this week because I've got this, this, and this. When I went into the hot yoga place and said, right, I'm here, I'm going to sign up for 6 months, I was committed. And what I would do is I would go home, and they had an app, and I would book my classes for the week. They then went in my calendar. I then knew that I was in it for the next 6 months of being like a 10 out of 10, 3 out of 10 yoga body. That was my commitment of doing it for that time. And also that gave me, well, it gave the company 6 months again of that consistency, but it also was likely to increase my results. Why? Because I was going to go more often. And one of the patterns that I had was I'll go when I feel like it. I'll go if I'm available. I'll go if I'm not too tired. I'll go if I have childcare. Whereas if I'd paid for it, or when I did pay for it, it then was like, so when am I going? What am I doing? Also, they had a £5 late fee and a £5 no-show fee. So I was like, I'm not getting that. I'm not paying for the yoga and then not going and then being charged again. No. And so it allowed me to work with my circumstances and to get results. And in that 6 months, I absolutely got results. And I knew that that casual thing of hopping and popping and dropping in whenever I felt like, it wouldn't have got those results. I want you to think about, finally, on this point, could you create something that will support your client again and again and again? So something like, say they might come to you for a yoga class. Is there something that you could sell to them, like an online membership? Or a copy of a Shavasana, or a bundle of 3 workshops. So even if, say they're coming to you and they're paying £20 for a yoga class, well, you can tell I've lived in London a long time. I'm just using that as an example. But then they might buy your course. You will have increased your profits by then. You would have added £50 more into that transaction. So really understand how you can support that practice. Also, if they then go away and practice at home, by the time they come back to you, that's when they're going to get more results. That's when they're going to tell people, you should do this. Have you bought the course? It's going to be great. And that's when it all comes to life. Number 5, our final point for today. What slows you down? What slows you down in terms of your growth? What is it costing you? Here's where our brain is a little bit cheeky here. It thinks that it's costing us nothing when we don't spend the money. When we don't spend the money, we're not giving anything. We're not holding back. And it's only one side of the story. When time and time again, you say no, or you don't step up when you have an opportunity, you're actually not saving anything, you're losing something. And of course, there's a different transaction every step of the way, but we have to understand what that means when we say no, when we don't sign up, when we don't take the action. And so what I want you to do is look at what is behind that. Not only in terms of the money decisions where you're not investing, but also what's happening in your mind. Those times where you're maybe wasting time, or you get stuck in indecision, and something that should be a decision made in an afternoon, it takes you 2 weeks to make a decision about. And it's not even a big decision, but somehow you get stuck in your head. Maybe you are losing things because you're stopping and starting. You do something for a little while and then you're like, oh, it's not working, or I'm going to not do it. And then you start again. And there is that thing about a pot. If you keep taking it off and on the hob, it's never going to boil. Maybe you are somebody that changes your mind all the time. Maybe you get stuck in self-doubt. Maybe. All of these things. Bring them all to the surface. This is what this show is all about. I want to see it all that gunk. The business equivalent of if you've ever, held somebody's hair back while they've been sick, or indeed been sick yourself, you don't want anything left inside. You want it all to come up, and then you can move on and you can heal and recover and all the rest of it. This is what it's like with all these blocks and stops that are stopping you from getting where you want to get to. Today's been juicy. Let me know what has landed for you. I would love, love, love to hear. Come and also do Create Your Income Pie. That could be a really great starting point for you. There are 3 ways to join, and this is all about creating life and business on your terms, everything from pricing and packaging to your pricing menu and freebies and discounts and selling and pitching and all sorts of great stuff. There are 3 ways to join. You can join as an online course or with a strategy session, or we can work together for a month and really get stuck into the nitty-gritty. See you tomorrow for part 3. Lots of love. Bye.